So will I tell you a bit about Eriu, how it started? I'm not sure who knows the story, or quite a few people don't. That's great. And we have our kids here today because it's Sunday, it's summer, and it's just, that's the way it is. So they're on their best behavior, and Sophia's a great helper. So it all started actually with Sophia, the story of Eriu, from my grandmother who came from County Sligo, a great knitter. And when Sophia was born 10 years ago, my granny, Sophia was born on my grandmother's birthday. So I knew there was always something in that. And my grandmother knit her a beautiful baby blanket, beautiful hand knit baby blanket made with merino wool, 100% wool, beautiful. I became obsessed with it because I realized how amazing wool is. A natural fiber, and I just couldn't, it was like this magic blanket that seemed to soothe Sophia whenever I didn't know what to do. I run out of options with a newborn, you know how it is. You've fed them, you've changed them, and they're still crying. And we'd say, get the kitsy blanket, and wrap her in it. And the wool had an effect on her. So I just became so enamored with this little blanket. And I also noticed that none of my friends had a hand knit baby blanket anymore, even though it's such a traditional Irish gift, that it just wasn't being made so much anymore. So I thought it would be a lovely idea to recreate my grandmother's blanket as a little business. And I thought I would go straight to the farmer. I had no background in textiles, fashion, farming. From the city, totally naive about a lot of these things. So when I went to the nearest wool shop and I asked for the finest Irish wool, and they looked at me and they were like, oh, we don't do Irish wool. And I was like, oh, but we have lots of sheep. Don't we have a history in wool? Like, didn't we make the iron sweater? Like, I just didn't get it. I was totally coming from the outside. And then I started to understand the whole story about Irish wool. And the more, I was actually working as a documentary researcher, that was my background. So I just started researching this story, and it just got sadder and sadder, and I just started falling in love with the tragedy of this story and thinking, we have to do something about this. I had found farmers, I had found wool, I just kept bumping into the same narrative, Irish wool is worthless. Farmers, oh, it's worthless, you know, really given up on everything. It was just so sad. And yet we have this rich history. So I just kind of kept researching, picking up the pieces, collecting wool, meeting farmers, meeting spinners, meeting people who were still knew the craft and who were saying it's not worthless. I'd heard from a few people, and I tried to collect wool. I found out the breeds, I researched, I worked with a woman in the UK, because again, we had lost the mills that I was going to where they didn't know about Irish wool anymore. So I had found I wanted to make a baby blanket, you know, I was like, surely it's possible with Irish wool to make a baby blanket. So I ended up meeting farmers, collecting wool, trying to bring it to mills who said no, trying to post it to England. I remember being a post office, being asked to leave a post office. It was one of my lowest moments because I was here with 2 big bags of just raw wool, no idea that they probably need to be regulated in some way, trying to ship them over. Anyway, my mum had a contact in the post office and they shipped it off. And when I got back, for me, was absolute gold. When it was knit up into a blanket. That's lovely, Jazzy. Now you have to be quiet while we're doing a little talk, is that okay? So when I knit it up, I knew that this was something that was worth preserving. This is something worth chasing. And it didn't fit the narrative that all Irish wool is worthless. I was like, this is not worthless. This is pure gold. Surely we can recreate this. So I had thought, what am I going to do? It wasn't feasible to make a blanket business by shipping stuff over to the UK and back. You know, I was thinking, we'll make a documentary, I'll do a book. I had met all these people and farmers and wool. I couldn't give up on it. And I remember my documentary producer was just like, wool is not sexy. We're not good at getting that. You guys would argue that. I would argue that. It's very, yeah. But you know, from a TV perspective 10 years ago, they were like, So then just everything in my life kind of started to crumble. And this ties in with the name of our company, which is Eriu, who is the goddess of Ireland, who is really the spirit of Ireland, the patron goddess of Ireland. And this vision is really, really from her. So at this time in my life, I had wool, but I had nothing, everything else was crumbling around me. So I ended up going through a divorce. I had like my ideas still, but I was like, you know, and my guidance was always, don't let that go, you know, and I realized I was always being guided by Eriu. So I remember at one point just like leaving my house with this wool that was spun. I was like a nursery rhyme or something, like 2 bags full, and thinking, I can't give up on this dream, even though nothing else made sense, the wool made sense. So then this is where the story turns a little bit magical, but it's true. I had a dream, and in this dream, I met this guy in my dream. And I also dreamt about a warehouse in the middle of a forest. Seems random. I was in therapy, thankfully, at the time. And I said to my therapist, I had this dream, you know, about this guy, and it meant something. I felt like I knew him. And she was like, yes, dear, you know, it'll get better. So, you know, I had the wool, I had this dream. And then my cousin took me away for a weekend away, a retreat weekend, to this, you know, self-development weekend. And I walked in and I met Lionel. And he was the man in my dream. And I got to the lunch break after looking at him for the whole morning, going, oh my God, this is like, you know. I got to the lunch break and I said, you were the man in my dream. He was like, you know, you meet crazy people on these type of courses, you know, and like, I was the crazy person on that weekend. But I heard, I was like, well, you know, what do you do? We were trying to be normal. And he was like, I'm a farmer, or he had a farm. Actually, he wasn't saying he was a farmer. He was a businessman, as he is. He is a businessman. But he wasn't so proud of the farming end, because that's Ireland with farmers, especially sheep farmers.
It actually is a bit of a joke. Like, they say you're a sheep farmer in Ireland, people almost snigger.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of, there's something wrong with you if you're a sheep farmer, because like, you don't get anything for your sheep, you don't get anything for your wool. It's like,
yeah, it's become a joke, which is so sad, when it was once a thing of pride. So he was saying, well, I have a farm. I was like, you're a farmer? And he was like, well, no, I'm kind of a businessman, and you know. And I was like, you're a farmer, this is amazing. Like, he was ashamed of it. I was like, you have sheep? And he was like, yeah. It was just getting better. So I was like, what sheep do you have? Like, is it Blue-Faced Esther? Is it Romney? And he was like, well, they're a bit of this, a bit of that. And I was just, this is not the answer I wanted. This is the problem with Irish wool, how it had gone. Everything is mixed.
Like, the only reason most farmers have sheep is to clean up after the cattle. Like, they don't use sheep for like wool. No one's used sheep for wool in Ireland for like 50 years.
Yeah, it's become again like that again. So I was just meeting this, you know. So then he told me about this warehouse that he had just cleared out his family business from. This warehouse that we're sitting in the middle of forest. Yes. So I know. So this is where it's like you have to start believing there's something greater than you guiding this, which makes me realize more and more every day, this is a dream of the land, of Eriu, that is seeding this through all of us, everyone who values wool again, to bring this value back for Irish wool. And we all have a part to play in that, I believe. So I was given this dream. I had to keep going with it. At this stage, it was so, how do you not continue the thread at this point? So anyway, it was destiny. We were meant to be together, and we're
getting married.
We're getting married in 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so again, as they go along this journey, you realize, oh, okay, oh, right, okay. At that time, I'd also found a woolen mill, which was about to be shipped out of the country, and we had very few remaining. And this farmer had said to me, this woman, she's a farmer and a spinner, she was like, do you know anyone who can save this woolen mill? And I was like, I don't know, but I'll try. I was like, Lionel, I just met you. Do you want to go see the woolen mill? And
I had zero interest because I was just in business for the last 20 years before that, and I had enough of business. I did not want another business. So it's always like,
he didn't want business. He didn't want sheep. He didn't want, like, maybe not a relationship at that point, who knows. But anyway, I dragged him into all of it. But when we went to see the mill, which is just 8 minutes away from the hill of Ishnok, where Eriu is, her resting place is, Lionel knew. We walked in and Lionel was like, oh my God, the warehouse that it was in is the exact copy of this warehouse. The exact same size. There was too many things that even he was like, okay, I can't ignore this.
I knew deep down that, yeah, it was meant for us, you know, so I went with it, but we didn't start till 2020.
Well, we started with the blend because I had researched and found the sheep, the Blueface Ester, the Romney blend. This will work as a start, as Irish wool, to get it back. And then, so that's what we decided to do. We got the mill. We got the mill to save it being sold to Iceland. And we started by setting up the yarn brand. So at first we spun it in Donegal. And the key really is the sheep and the farmers. So this is where Lionel is come back into his farming glory. And, you know, we've set up these farm to yarn networks all over the country where we're valuing the farmer again. We're paying them
10 times over market, even 20 times over market value.
Yeah.
Like they're getting like 10 cent, 20 cent a kilo.
This market value is so terrible. Yeah. Like, how can it ever work?
Yeah.
How can it ever work if we don't pay the farmer? You know, and yeah.
Like farmers need to get at least like €1 a kilo to even just break even. And like if they're getting 10 cents, they're making like 90% of a loss. Just on shearing the sheep, it's ridiculous. Like, so we're paying them over €3 a kilo,
yeah.
$3.25 a kilo this year for the Leicester and for the Romney wool. Yeah. And like we go around every year in a little truck, and they love seeing us come in, you know. But before it's like, oh, there's a wool merchant, like get them the heck out of here. And actually, a lot of farmers are so angry about it, they actually just dump the wool, or they use it for bedding. They don't want to give it to the merchant because they don't want to waste diesel going to them. You know, that's what the reality of the wool at the moment is.
And it's so sad, and we really are at this cusp where, you know, we talk to people who remember, or the grandfather remembers collecting wool. It was so valuable off barbed wire fences. They remember buying tractors, land with wool money. Wool money was as good as the meat money. It was like, it was valued. And we are, like literally, as we said, it's a joke for young people to go into sheep farming. The farmers choosing easy care sheep where the fleeces fall off. We've lost our native breeds in front of our eyes. We actually extinct a beautiful breed called the Clador in the 70s, where the Department of Agriculture decided the market isn't there for it, so they culled the last remaining herd. Like, not left them on one of them pieces of land in Ireland, like culled them. You know, I think the biggest problem that I have encountered, because if you look at Britain, they're 20 years ahead of us. They've revived the Great Wool Revival, the Great British Wool Revival. They have understood that natural fibres, as a collective, we are understanding globally natural fibres are so valuable. Like, what were we thinking with the synthetics? Not us, we were fed this. But it's like smoking or anything. You finally realize, like, we're taking something that is not at all sustainable, processing it with natural resources which are poisoning this and taking from the land, creating a product that is a cheap and throwaway product and that cannot be recycled or composted. Like, everything is backwards about that equation. Whereas natural fibres are the complete opposite. We're harnessing a natural resource. We're bringing value to it, value to the people who grow it. It's I always say wool is in our DNA. Like, we're, especially as Irish, we create so well with wool. We're healthy with wool. Communities work together, children, elders, people collect and harvest in mehol. Like, wool really weaves community together as well. So when the whole woolen industry broke down, a lot of that community broke down too. The woolen mills shut down, even the jobs. There's a woolen mill called Ardfinnan that we've been in touch with the descendants of in Tipperary. And at one time, that was set up slightly after the famine, but it boomed, it blossomed. And they took people and they were educating kids, educating people within the system. They had theatre there. It was the community it made a thriving community. And again, that was lost in favor of kind of the synthetics boom, which finally kind of crushed everything, really crushed everything in Ireland, because we had already been crushed before. Our psychology from colonization, from the wool acts that came in, which suppressed Irish wool when it was thriving always. So now we love the fact that our main yarn consultant is from England, and I'm like, we're healing the karma of the generations, you know. He's advising us on how to get the best out of our wool, and he's so excited, isn't he? Like, he's genuinely so excited. He's helping us set up our mill, because again, we've lost the skills. But last week we had this specialist over from Lithuania and our UK consultant, and they're working with the best wool in England, this top luxury mill that we're modelling ourselves on to set up, and they're going to consult for us because again, we don't have the skills here. And they were going through our wool, so impressed. You know, it was so heartwarming, wasn't it? Because and I remember this English woman that I originally worked with, she said, Zoe, the Irish land has beautiful wool. You know, she said, in some cases, I think the Irish Romney is better than our UK Romney. She was passionate about us believing in ourselves. But why I think we failed so much in it was because that narrative had been installed of our self-worth. Whereas the Britain was able to go, oh, you know, natural fibres work, let's start up our mills again. Whereas Ireland were like, we were stuck in this, it's not worth anything, we had sold our mills. So it's definitely a dream of, you know, Eriu, of the land, of the time, to get this back up, and we're all a part of it. So the main thing is the farmers, the farming networks we're setting up. We're setting up co-ops now to kind of learn again, really, isn't it? There's so much to learn. Yeah.
Like, we'd like to have way more blends in the future as well. Like, you know, like there's probably another 15 breeds of sheep out there that, you know, that we could get. We just haven't had a chance because we've just been, you know, growing the Romney and the Blueface for the moment. But there's like a finite amount of the Blueface Leicester in the country. Yeah, there's Romney, there's quite a lot. We could really scale a lot with the Romney, but there's loads of other breeds that's out there, you know, that we haven't even looked at yet. That we're looking forward to creating other blends, like natural blends, and like, you know, like greys and blacks and browns and
all the
you know, natural colours.
Yeah.
You know.
And the other thing you reminded me is the Donard, the little village here. What we found out, you know, only recently, just from researching. And I didn't know this when I came to this area, and even I don't think your family would have been so aware of it, but this whole area was a thriving woolen production area. This land was. There was 5 woolen mills all around this land from the 12th century. The roads were formed from the horses that were bringing the wool. So we're like, again, oh, that's why Eriu wants the mill here, and that's why it was supposed to come here, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. It's like the land is literally calling it home. So we're just in service to that, really, but we depend on you guys. We depend on people valuing it at the end, you know, and valuing it over synthetics, and valuing the higher price of what it costs to pay the farmer. Because just nothing works if we can't value the farmer. It doesn't work. You know, it's sad we've lost simple skills like at shearing day. Shearing day, so much can be lost or gained in that day. And if you don't have enough people on the floor grabbing the wool, pulling out the bits, then you have Kemp, then you have something that destroys a jumper. And it's so quick on shearing day. It's you know, when you watch them shearing sheep, and they have to get through so many, and then when you really see how the wool handler's job, again, which hasn't been valued, or people don't have the money to pay a wool handler on the day because it's already costing more than the price of the wool to shear the sheep. How can they invest in a wool handler? So then when we're told the wool is worthless, well, why has it gone so worthless? The equation is backwards. So we start the equation by paying the farmers, and that's what we've done, and that's what we invested in. Before even knowing there would be a market for it, you know. So thank God for you guys at the end of the chain, you know, valuing the wool.
We're very happy with our role in this.
Well, that's all it comes down to, you know. It started with a knitter, my grandmother, and it goes back to the knitters who really, we learn the most from knitters. You know, the knitters are the teachers for us, because I'm not a skilled knitter. I'm a basic one of my missions. Lionel's not a knitter, you know, so we rely on the feedback and the information. We rely on Lisa so much as well, a lot of the time, to tell us. Yeah, exactly, to tell us all these things that we're discovering together.
Yeah.
Does it dye? What's the best weight? What does this work in? Worsted or woolen? You know, so it's a together thing that we're bringing this back. We're going to go on a walk to see the sheep, and the river is at the end. So that's what we do. It's a little like ritual. So Lionel can introduce you to all the sheep. So that's the story. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Lisa and Jenny.
I hope you enjoyed that wonderful presentation by Zoe and Lionel. I think we can all agree that their story is a remarkable one, and it's one that we're very proud to play a part in. And today we're absolutely thrilled to be introducing Farm to Yarn 4-ply to the world. This is a special collaboration between Townhouse Yarns and Ériu, and one that's been many, many months in the making. This really is the yarn of our dreams. It's finally a 100% Irish wool yarn that not only takes up dye beautifully, but it's also a complete pleasure to knit with and to wear. This is a truly modern Irish yarn that supports that all-important revival of the Irish wool industry, all the way from source to skein. You can now shop Farm to Yarn 4-ply at thisisknit.ie and also from Townhouse Yarns stockists worldwide.